Hey, what is up, Anime Autistic? I'm your anime champion. How are you guys? Hope you're doing great. So, there's plenty of stuff out there that is good, but it's not going to be for everybody. Nothing's going to really please everybody out there. Some things are like really, really good, but some people be like, it's not for me, and it's really just not for that person. It's for somebody else. It's got a different audience, different demographic in mind. I think it was in a Chris Rock special. I heard him say, it was hard for me to find a girl to settle down with because not everybody loves, Wu-Tang and Jerry Seinfeld. So that's just kind of the deal there. And for me, some things that I don't like a lot of the time is kind of when things are boring. When they start off kind of slow and boring, I kind of want to get into the story. I don't really want to have it be just stating and me trying to really piece, or me trying to be like, all right, this has got a slow build. I don't really love things with a real slow build. Some things with a slow build are done well, and there's plenty of good stuff out there that I do think is, I'm like, that's kind of boring, but I don't think it's, bad. I actually think it's really good. And it's also there's sorts of different genres too. I'll just go movies. A drama movie that's kind of boring is the second Godfather. That movie is really long, feels really long, and I mean, you could cut out 10 minutes of that first act, 10 minutes out of that second act. You'd still have a 3-hour and 20-minute movie. Nobody would be the wiser. That movie's just a slow burn all the way through, but I think it's done really well. There's a lot of stuff in it that, not just, cinematography and stuff, but there's just a lot of things in that movie that people still use today. It's well acted, well written. The story's told in a very good way. It's handled really well, and it just, all in all, it's a real good movie. Not as good as the first one, but still. Also, if you see this little red mark on my head, it's because I've got a hanging lamp in my apartment, and just walked into it last night. Don't know what was up with that. Don't know why I did that, but just was not paying attention and busted my head. So I got a little bruise there. And there's other things. One of my favorite sci-fi movies is Ex Machina, which I would say is kind of a slow, kind of honestly boring movie, but really, 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 really good. But I would totally tell people it's kind of a boring movie. If you're going in expecting a whole lot of action or even a whole lot of comedy, that's not going to happen to you. It's really just kind of atmospheric is a lot of what that movie is. The very first Iron Man, to me, I thought that movie was kind of boring. I still like it, but he barely did any Iron Man things in it. So it just, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be as far as a superhero movie. Especially seeing all the other stuff that we have had from the Marvel Universe, and that being the one that kicked it off. It's like, oh wow, that one was really very subdued in its amount of action, adventure, kind of everything. Even the story itself was kind of low played. It's just kind of like, well, this is, he's gonna. A lot of him was just him Tony testing stuff out in his lab for a lot of it. And then here's a newer movie, Midsommar, or it's supposed to be a horror movie, but there was nothing really scary in that movie. It was trying very hard to be art. I was kind of annoyed, honestly, in a sense by that. But it's still a good movie, and it did a lot of good things as well. So I just wanted to talk about some anime that are out there that kind of bored me a little bit. Some of them maybe I really like still, and some of them maybe I don't like all that much. But let's get into it. So the very first one is Madoka Magica. I'm not going to go too deep into this one because I kind of already have a Madoka Magica video planned. To me, I feel like the hype for Madoka Magica is really high for a lot of stuff that just was not there. I would say shining point of it though is that the fights with the witches are very creative. They're really creative, really do utilize what you can do just animation wise. Like, you know, I really like when something does do something unconventional and tells a story through animation in ways that you really wouldn't be able to. There's other things. Fooly Cooley's like kind of one of those things. There's some episodes of BoJack that I was like, what? Which you just wouldn't be able to do through any other medium, and really would not be able to have a story without it being, you know, set in animation. But yeah, Madoka Magica it just didn't. It was like 7 episodes in, and then I was like, oh, okay, so this is what the whole show is supposed to be about, and it's a 12-episode show. So at the very beginning of Mob Psycho, which I actually really, really do enjoy. I think Mob Psycho is a great show. I do like. I think it's really good. I want to go back. I watched it not too long ago, and I kind of want to go back and rewatch it again sometime because it's a real good show. I really enjoy it. But at the beginning of it, it was just kind of this slice of life stuff. There wasn't anything that was really like pulling me into the story. After a little bit of time, it starts to get a little bit more thoughtful. Starts to kind of touch on some themes of you know, Mob's kind of psyche, Mob's kind of, it talks about kind of Mob's, you know, his perception of himself is a lot of that show, you know, kind of self-esteem stuff, him being able to build his self-confidence and doing that kind of through the work, what is it, Body Improvement Club, the Body Improvement Club, to do it through that. And him kind of growing as a character, and that was really good. And then it has some cool action, and it has some fun characters. But just at the very start of it, first 3 episodes, I really was not. I was like, man, I'm not digging where this is going. I'm just like kind of bored. I was kind of like, this. I just can't do this whole. Okay, it's just a little this and that, and I was like, man. I'm not feeling it just because I don't think it was real funny. I didn't think it was real interesting, and I didn't think, you know, there was much action to it. There was really just Mob and Reagan kind of just doing some kind of goofball exorcist stuff, and I was like, you know what? I could watch the beginning of Supernatural and be more happy with it. So that was just kind of my deal with that. But as it built, it turned into a great story that was very, very thought-provoking for me personally. Which is, I love it when things provide some stuff of substance, give you the option to think. I enjoy thoughtful anime and thoughtful stories just in general. Things that are very thematic and get into different philosophies potentially, or have some really good motifs, or have some interesting symbolism, or just interesting character progression in it. So once Psycho Pass actually gets into, alright, this is going to be about a murder mystery for the first season, then it does start to get interesting. But I remember the 6th episode of Psycho Pass, I was like, okay, this is the first good episode. Up to that point, it felt like they were kind of talking out their ass about different themes that weren't super pressing. It's somewhat relevant what they were talking about, just thematically. Kind of the idea of a person's psychopaths and monitoring that, and kind of how we would deal with this kind of futuristic society and what we do with that. And it's interesting. Nothing new. That's kind of the deal. I was like, you know, there's so much better sci-fi out there than Psycho Pass. Just to be 100% real about it. But it does pick up and it gets more interesting. Like the action was fine, but the story, or at least maybe even just the story elements, felt a little aimless. I was like, what are we really doing here? You know that there's kind of this overarching plot, but you're like, what? I just didn't get it. it very much, if you don't know, Psycho Pass is an anime only show. It's a like a crime thriller kind of anime, and it's, when is it made? It was like 2013 or something like that, 2012. Well, I do think it was pretty good. It, you know, I just was like, where's this going? Where's this show going? What are you trying to do with this show? And it felt kind of pointless the first few episodes. Like, the action's fine, but the characters, honestly, the characters in Psycho Pass, boring. You know, the characters were boring, and the reason for their missions were boring. You know, nothing connected. You're like, all right, so is this going to be them tracking down other people that have clouded minds? You know, is this the whole show? I didn't know what it was going to be. You know, I look up a little bit of stuff before I go into a show just to kind of know what it's about. But I just heard all these good things about Psycho Pass, and I was watching, and I was like, this is like a good anime, and I wasn't feeling it. And then it, like I said, picked up, and I was like, you know, this is something that I can jive with. Is it something that I love? Hell no. But it's serviceable. Just to me personally, I felt like, you know, things weren't really even coming together until like 10 episodes in, and I was like, alright, now it's getting interesting. It is not interesting up to that point. It's just kind of cool, you know. It does not grip you from the start. It takes so much time to really like be like, hey, do we have your attention now? And it, you know, I don't know, but like I said, it's okay. Samurai Champloo is pretty good, and I know a lot of people out there like love that show, and I watched it and I enjoyed it. I think of all the stuff from that creator, I think that might be the one I like the least. I don't love Kids on a Slope, but I do really like Space Dandy. Cowboy Bebop's fantastic, and Carol and Tuesdays, a masterpiece. But for Champloo, for Samurai Champloo, I just was never really pulled into the story. I liked the characters, and I liked the journey that they were going on, and I thought each episode was fun, and it was kind of interesting, but it didn't like pull me into the show. I didn't feel invested, and I've since I've watched that show, like a lot of people are like, you know, it's so good. And I'm just like, I don't remember all these good things that you're talking about. Like, it's fun show, and I think it's done well, but I'm just kind of like, the sense of adventure just didn't sweep over me in the way that it easily could have with that type of story. You could easily do, you know, it could have been something kind of like, you know, Demon Slayer-ish, where, you know, maybe there's 2 episodes dedicated to this, and there's episodes of that, but there's a sense of adventure to it. Like in Cowboy Bebop, and it seems like he was kind of going for that kind of deal, but with samurais and hip hop. With the soundtrack for the soundtrack for Samurai Champloo is pretty dope. But it just didn't sweep over me in the same way as like in Cowboy Bebop, where there's just so much kind of, there's a lot of kind of intricacies. The story that they're telling is fun through these crimes, through these, you know, these crimes that are being committed. I guess they're not every single episode's a crime, but a lot of it is them hunting down criminals because they're bounty hunters in Cowboy Bebop. Some of them, you know, there's some nasty stuff in the fridge, and that's the plot. Was that a spoiler? Oops. So you know, but it's again one of those shows that I'm like, this is serviceable, but you know, let's calm down the hype, because it's not super interesting or super exciting to watch. It's just not there, son. I think I might be wrong about this, but Konosuba, to me, I dropped it. I watched this first episode of season 2, and by that time I go, this kind of played out. I'm just not feeling this anymore. I got tired, and I was like, you know what? The story here, I feel like the story was kind of poor, and the poor story wasn't overcome by the comedy that was in it. And even the comedy, I really wouldn't give over maybe like a 7.5, 2. And then there just wasn't too much else for me to really love about it. I know a lot of people love those characters. Didn't feel really anything towards those characters other than Aqua. I thought was a fun play on the kind of princess-ish character, or I know she's a goddess, but that kind of character. She was a fun play on that. And what they were doing was, some fun stuff. I didn't think the humor was bad, but just didn't blow me away, and just the lack of story didn't make up for it at all. And it's overall completely fine. Like, it's overall decent. There's nothing that I say is like about it that I'm like, oh, this is like bad, like they did a bad job. But it just did. It wasn't. It didn't bring me in. Did not bring me in. I watched it and I said, you know what, this is fine, and it just was not for me. And I was like, this story's not going anywhere, and it doesn't feel like it's supposed. It didn't feel like it was supposed to be like a Family Guy, where it's like, oh, it's this kind of individual one-off thing. It wasn't that kind of set up for that type of deal. It was supposed to be kind of more like a BoJack, if you even want to. Sounds unfair. Don't ever compare BoJack to Konosuba. I think everybody is on the page that BoJack is phenomenal, though, right? For real, like, it's amazing. Not every part. Part 3 of JoJo's was extremely repetitive. Did not finish it. I got to the beginning of season 2 and I was like, oh, we got more of this to go. It's just the same thing that we've been doing the entire first season to me, and I just could not bear it. It just didn't feel to me like the main group was really getting too much progress. Like, they finally get to Egypt and I'm like, okay, that took forever, and then they're still gonna have to go on for another 20 episodes or 18 episodes or whatever it is before they even get to Dio. I was like, I just couldn't. I called it off. My friend had me watch the fight between Dio and Jotaro, and I was like, cool, that's fine. I'm not gonna put the subtitles on this because I truly don't care. Other parts of JoJo's I have liked, even part 1. I know people say that that's the worst part. To me, it's part 3. At least part 1 is merciful with the length of it, whereas part 4 just drags on for an eternity. Not part 4, sorry. Part 4 is actually funny. I actually like part 4. It was nice that it was a almost kind of slice of life comedy with some really fun action in it. Part 3 though. Part 3 was just never ending. This isn't gonna sound new, but because I've heard everybody else say the same thing, but Violet Evergarden, while beautiful, it seemed to me like the story that her memories were displaying, or having if that was at the upfront, if we were seeing that story, that would have been good. But her story as a topographer, right, wasn't all that fantastic. And while it's like visually beautiful, I think it really looks good. Couldn't get past the second episode. Could not. I hate to tell you this, but they didn't provide anything that I was like, this might suck me into it. This might actually be a show with an interesting premise. And just because the premise of it, to me, just the premise of it's boring. It's and I'm not saying there can't be shows that are like that. Like there's shows that don't have necessarily an interesting premise. Even sometimes the plot isn't super strong, but they do well with themes, and they do well with atmosphere, and they do well with acting, and they do well with the pacing of the show. And Violet Evergarden did okay with those, but it just wasn't that strong with those things to where I was like, I get it. And it'd be different if it was a slow show with some very good emotion to it. I would feel it, but the emotion didn't feel there with Violet Evergarden because it just did not suck me in with interesting characters or an interesting story or good tone or good atmosphere. Not that those were bad, but they weren't enough for me to be like, okay, well now let me get interested. I'm invested in this. All in all, I just kind of watched those first 2 episodes and I was like, you know what, and maybe that's just not for me or whatever, but I was like, you're hinting at things that would be way more interesting for us to watch that instead. Like, that would be a better series. Here's the last one, and I think I might get some heat. I might get some hate as well from this, but Code Geass is fine when it's going over the war. Every single second that Lelouch is thinking, dealing, interacting with his school life is dreadful. I hate it. I don't know if that's obvious to everyone else, but it doesn't provide to me. I was like, it does not provide for this to provide anything to the story. Suzaku does not have to be a student at the same high school as Lelouch. It could have been a ton of different things going on where, it could have been like a Spider-Man deal where maybe Lelouch is working with somebody who's a relative of Suzaku's, or, and Suzaku's around or something like that. Like, just the school setting for that show didn't match the other part of the show, and it's 40% of it to me felt like it was like us in the school setting, or set in school, and it's like, oh my god, can we do something? And I get it, he's in high school, it's whatever. Maybe not have him in high school, maybe not have this revolutionary in high school. I mean, that's kind of absurd already. But that's that's anime. But like, come on, guys, seriously. And it feels so much like it is in anime only. Like, I'm like, I can tell that this is the same thing with Psycho-Pass. I'm like, I can tell that this is not based off of a manga. I feel like it's a good when it focuses on the strategy and the kind of the geopolitics and stuff like that in the show. Great series. But, God, come on. I don't care about his math test. It's not like Spider-Man Homecoming where it's got some comedy and some actual fun, cute stuff in it. It's over-dramatic at a high school, and it's not, like, cute or fun. None of it's cute and fun. None of it is cute and fun. And the rest of the series is not cute and fun either. And it's like, yo, let's just... it just need to be rewritten. Like, straight up. I did one for Greed Island, a rewrite. I might put one together for Code Geass, how to write it correctly, when I finish the series, because I'm a good portion through it. But I'm like, it's a slow process me watching that show, because I can't skip the parts that he's in high school because some important stuff happens every once in a while. Anyway, yep, that's my list, guys. Thank you so much for making it up to this point. If you disagree with me, give it a like. If you agree with me, give it a like. I just could use some likes. But thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Peace out. I'll see you on the next one. Leave some anime that you thought just kind of either you felt were kind of overhyped or just needed to be interesting in different ways in the comments, and I will definitely respond to those very much so. Peace out, guys. Bye.